So, in Acts 4, we find that Peter and John are captured by the Pharisees and led into questioning. One of the questions the Pharisees ask is, by whose authority do you have to heal this man? By the way, in the previous chapter, they just healed a man. Of course, Peter and John deliver the answer that seems obvious to us at this point, that their authority comes from the resurrected Jesus. But I think what is the most interesting part about this is how the Pharisees respond, and the fact that it sort of plays into a larger understanding of how we have proof for the resurrection. You see, at this point, the Pharisees very much know about the resurrection of Christ. They know that some stuff went down that has led people en masse to believe that Christ was raised from the dead. But perhaps one of the more interesting parts is what they don't say. Starting in Acts 4, verse 13, the Pharisees begin to confer with each other after Peter and John make their initial statements. And they recognize that what they do in the coming moments will sort of affect their perception by the general populace, the Jewish people who they are over at that time. Notice, however, that their concern never falls on the validity of Jesus Christ being raised from the dead. There's an underlying understanding here that Jesus' tomb being empty was not up for debate. We know this simply because they don't go after it. At this point in time, the Pharisees have a perfect chance to tell Peter and John, hey, you're making this stuff up, we have proof Jesus is still in the tomb. But they don't, nor are they even ready to make the accusation that Peter and John stole the body from the tomb, an accusation, by the way, which would be very difficult to provide supporting evidence for, given that the tomb was well guarded. Of course, this is not the only time that the Pharisees confront the disciples throughout Acts or throughout the rest of history. But it is one of the first, and it's extremely interesting to see that in all of it, they don't seem to want to argue whether or not Jesus was resurrected, which would be a massive point to sweep the rug out from under Christianity. Now, of course, if you don't believe this, you might want to attack the credibility of Acts and the Bible itself, given that Acts is the one that tells us this information. And if you want to attack the Bible's credibility, I would just point you to one of our earlier episodes where we talk about how the Bible is credible, or really other content on how the Bible is credible for that matter. I mean, there's a lot out there. But I think this is a kind of fun little point to look at and to blow up in order to discuss one of the proofs for the resurrection. So next time you talk about the resurrection, you can feel just a little more secure in knowing that it really isn't likely that it was made up, given the fact that the Jewish leaders at the time weren't even willing to say that it was made up. Anyway, let me know what you think, and take care. See you tomorrow.